I am Graham Knaus. I'm the CEO of the California State Association of Counties. Thanks all for carving out some time to join us today to talk about the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP. Before sharing a few comments at the top end of this, I wanted to really recognize Sunny Wright McPeak, who serves as the president and CEO of the California Emerging Technology Fund, as well as Chastity Benson, who serves as the CSAC Chief Operating Officer, and up until recently was running our foundation. I also want to thank Brian Rutledge, who serves as our grants program director out of our foundation, who's a key lead on this webinar as well. We're here today in recognition of the importance of access to broadband all throughout the state. And so that is both about the middle and the last mile, and it's also about ensuring that there is affordability so that communities can really access it in sustainable ways. And so, as many of you know, connecting communities is critically imperative in order to be part of the current economy and really to participate in society more broadly. It's the gateway to economic mobility, so incredibly important in many communities throughout California. And we have a really remarkable opportunity to transform communities that have been plagued by poverty, by few education and economic pathways to move out of such poverty. Broadband can begin to open up those doors. At CSAC, there are two issues that drive us every single day: broadband and homelessness. And although this is not today is not about homelessness, but in both cases, on both issues, we cannot lose the opportunity to change the course of history for so many communities. It is absolutely the time to make change happen and to ensure that those who have eligibility for the ACP program have awareness and can get enrolled. And so our role through all of this is about counties as leaders in communities and as the primary service providers for the state when all else fails. CSAC and our California Counties Foundation are proud and honored to be partnering with the California Emerging Technology Fund to increase the Affordable Connectivity Program enrollment in California. That is a critical $30 a month subsidy to ensure that there is greater access to broadband, and there are nearly 4 million households in the state currently eligible, but not yet enrolled. And so CSAC will certainly do anything that we can to close that gap in partnership with CETF. That includes awareness, enrollment events, webinars just like today, broad communications, and really about leveraging the gold that lives in our hands for the moment around ACP with the amount of federal funding that is flowing that we can put to use in communities. I want to paint a picture real briefly about why our investment in staff resources and in this partnership is so high. There are simply too many communities, rural and urban, in California that lack education, economic, and social opportunities, where members of the community are stuck in cycles of poverty, and broadband access and affordability begins to open the door to community transformation in a way that we've not seen in at least a generation. So imagine a rural or an urban disadvantaged community that may have little to no access to a community college, little connectivity to broadband, no affordability available to them, little economic opportunity, and the opportunity that ACP and broadband access may provide to them in terms of having some optimistic path forward related to this issue in their community. Broadband certainly doesn't solve all the issues that exist in communities, but it definitely opens the door for changing the course in so many areas that are struggling in the state and so many disadvantaged populations here in California. And so we're very optimistic about the progress that we can make together related to this. We need you in order to make that progress in your community. And with that, I would I'd like to hand the mic over to my friend and the great leader, Sonny Wright McPeak, as the president and CEO of the California Emerging Technology Fund, who has been doing this work for many, many years. Sonny.
Thank you, Graham. What a pleasure it is and privilege to join you and the California State Association of Counties in kicking off this public version of our partnership. I was so moved by your eloquent words, Graham, about the importance of the Affordable Connectivity Program to our residents in California, but also want to just take a moment to underscore how important it is for all 58 counties and all 296 supervisors to be leading on this issue. Every inch of California is covered by a county, and we in county government are on the front lines every day, providing the essential safety net, all the public services. Some of you are aware I am a former county supervisor for 16 years in Contra Costa County, and I had the distinct honor of serving as a president of CSAC now many decades ago. But county government remains in my heart because I know the difference that county supervisors make when you are out in front and mobilizing all of your partners and allies to address an issue. So I'm very pleased. I do want to say it's been a pleasure to work with you, with Chastity, with your entire team, with Brian, with Veronica, in investing a few of our resources with CSAC. And I just want to say yesterday I had the pleasure of being in the Redwood Coast with Humboldt County, Trinity County, Del Norte County, and past CSAC President Virginia Bass. And in a very short period of time, there was an amazing conversation around ACP that came up with innovation and ways to pretty efficiently address how do we reach everybody in those 3 counties who are eligible for ACP. So it is really, again, such an exciting opportunity for us to work together. It is also a pivotal time in the nation's implementation of the ACP program. Just today, the Federal Communications Commission tried to do, they switched on a new website. They're working out the kinks, they're working out their challenges, but they also just launched as of Monday their grants program to various entities throughout the nation to promote ACP. There are 15 recipients in California, including the state of California. All the grants got cut quite substantially from what was the original request, but it gives us an opportunity to have a little bit of an infusion of resources into support this effort. We hope that the California legislature will take a look at during their deliberations on the budget of augmenting what can be done to assist counties in the outreach. And just keep in mind, we have 5.8 million households in California that are eligible for the Affordable Connectivity Program. As of Monday, we crossed over the 2.1 million mark. No other state has that many households enrolled in ACP, and yet we're hovering right around 13% of all enrollments nationwide. California is 13% of the nation's population, so that's pretty good. However, we have 15% of all low-income households in the nation living in our state and in our 58 counties. And so if we get everyone enrolled, not only can we put money in the pockets of folks, today, if we had everyone involved, we'd have another $1.4 billion flowing into our economies locally and within each region and county. But also, if we got everyone online, we would have more ways to communicate efficiently with the people we serve in county government. So with that, I want to go back to our program and just tell you what an honor and thrill it is, and really fun to be able to work so closely again with CSAC.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Graham Knaus, the CEO of CSAC, and thank you to Sunny Wright McPeak, the president and CEO of our partners at CETF. My name is Brian Rutledge. I'm going to moderate the rest of our hour plus in the webinar here. I just wanted to briefly review our agenda and do some housekeeping. Now that we're starting to get invested in ACP enrollment, we're starting to understand that this is a very important issue for your county, for the entire state. First, we're going to start things off by getting some more context. We're going to hear from Bruce Gibson. He's a supervisor from San Luis Obispo County. He's the first vice president of CSAC, and he's also the president of the foundation. A side note is I am the grants program director for the CSAC Grants Initiative. I'm also leading the CETF Partnership side for CSAC, and both of those things live at the foundation. So Supervisor Gibson is very important to our world at the foundation over here. So he's going to tell you a little bit about why counties need to think about ACP mattering. It is very significant. This is a key moment, as both CEO Knaus and President and CEO McPeak were alluding to and starting to get into. We're then going to hear from Marissa Conche, who's the broadband adoption. I believe I miswrote her title. I think she might be the adoption program director at CETF, but effectively she's overseen a lot of these get out the ACP enrollment outreach type efforts. After we get some more context on why it matters, what it is, we're going to hear two case studies, first from LA and then from Riverside County. So we have Mark Colton, who's the acting general manager of the LA County Office of Major Programs and Initiatives. He's also the assistant director of LA County's big Delete the Divide initiative. And he's going to tell us, what have they done to boost ACP enrollment, some lessons learned, so that can help counties start to think about their own approach. Then we'll hear from Tom Mullen from Riverside County. He's the chief data officer, also been critical to some broadband efforts. And then we'll finally end everything off, not on the call yet, but our president from CSAC, Chuck Washington, supervisor from Riverside, will jump in, and he will presumably, I'm going to guess, end us all with how does this all matter for us? What can we do? Why should we go forward and start to move on this together? So with that, I'll just ask Supervisor Gibson to jump in, and I'll tee him up by again thanking him for as our first vice president of CSAC, as essentially my boss's boss. I'm not sure in the organizational math, but as the president of the board at Foundation, he matters a great deal to our world. So thank you for being here, Supervisor Gibson, and I'll hand it over to you to tell us more about why this matters.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I don't know where I fit on the organizational map, but let me thank you for all the fine work you're doing for the foundation. In particular, pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Also an honor to be in the illustrious company of Sunny and Graham Knaus, both legends within the county government sphere. Let me talk a little bit, let me get into a little bit of math, expand a little bit on some of the numbers that Sunny offered you up to start with. There are a huge number of federal dollars available here that we can bring to benefit our constituents and their communities. And the key thing is that those dollars are relatively easy to get a hold of. As Sunny indicated, though, we've made a strong effort, but we have a long way to go. 5.8 million households in California eligible for the ACP, but only a little over 2 million actually taking advantage of it right now. So we're only about a third of the way there. And this is a big deal to individual households. This is a total subsidy of $360 per year when you look at the monthly contribution this can make to each household. And I'll talk a little bit about the importance to the household here in a minute. But at a statewide level, it's good to go back and just again look at the opportunity. There's California is eligible for over $2 billion in funding through the ACP, and right now we're only pulling down a little over 700 million. So there's upside here that can really be brought to bear. And again, at the individual household level and cumulatively to communities, this is huge. You know, the second thing, you know, that I think about all the time is the benefits that a affordable broadband connection can bring to our communities, both for community development and their economic development. You know, we've seen that broadband has come effectively a utility, not regulated as exactly as such, but it is something that's becoming central to modern life. And the pandemic really drove that home. You know, you look at how it affects what we do, and county services are increasingly depending on good broadband connection. I'm thinking of things like telehealth, communication in an emergency, interaction with a number of different county service providers really are more and more shifting to the need of a broadband connection. And other public services as well. I think that was really highlighted, particularly with the fate of education in the pandemic. A lot of struggle there, but it was understood that educational component, if deployed in a creative and effective way, can really make a difference. We look at economic function in our communities, the fact of banking, the ability for those who can to work remotely. Overall, those things lead to opportunities in economic development that broadband is right in the middle of. And then there's the social connection. You know, for better or worse, an internet connection is becoming more and more a piece of our connection with others. I'm here I am on a relatively good broadband connecting with you. I like a face-to-face meeting, but let's face it, the realities of modern life are wrapped up in our ability to transact our social interactions over the internet as well. So to bring those two things together, affordable broadband is really central to the future of California. It has a way, it's going to be a great equalizer, I think, as we look at disadvantaged communities, at remote communities, at rural communities, at communities that have a variety of economic bases. And this is something that is right in the wheelhouse of counties to help. I've been involved in a couple of public events where we have signed folks up to the ACP program. It's pretty simple to organize. We get people in a room, a library, a community hall, whatever it is. And when they come in and realize that they can have broadband for $30 a month, that changes their life. I've watched the expression on some of these folks' face. It's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to working with CETF. I appreciate the leadership they've exerted over many years now. And I'm hopeful that counties all over this state are going to take this on with a passion and make a difference in our communities. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you so much, First Vice President Gibson. And I did, before we move on, because that's now that we're starting to invest more, clearly there's federal dollars at stake, there's community development at stake, future California's at stake here. We're starting to invest more. We're going to turn to hearing from Marissa Conche from CETF, and she's going to explain what exactly it is. But for the next three speakers, I'm gonna try to fit in some moderated Q&A after each of them. We're gonna see how the time goes, and I'm gonna try to flow it according to everyone's presentation. But we've already started to get questions in the chat. You'll note you can't send we've disengaged the group everyone talk to everyone mode, and we are accepting questions directly to the panelists. So please do engage that way if you have questions. I will try to limit them down to a couple core ones that will benefit the most number on the quickest format, mostly because we have a lot of folks on the call. But I will also try to follow up with each of you that drops a question in the chat. So please do put as much of your thoughts, comments, concerns in there. So my email is brutledge@counties.org. And as I said in the intro, in introducing myself as the moderator, I am going to be the point person at CSAC for the CETF Partnership. So at any time after this webinar, before our future webinars, after those, just drop me an email with any questions, concerns. Our big goal at CSAC is to get folks talking about this, acting on this, so I can do whatever we can figure out to respond to you with whatever you want to reach out about. So we're excited to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn us now to digging into the deep specifics about the benefits eligibility, what this is, and then you can take that back and use these as thoughts to circulate with your colleagues in your own county. So Marissa Conche is the Broadband Adoption Program Director at CETF. She's hosted more than 60 outreach events for what's called the Get Connected California effort. So that's the ACP enrollment that they've been running through CETF. Marissa also developed the toolkit for Get Connected California. So she's a great person to hear from in this moment about ACP enrollment. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to her and thank her again for being with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And this message, all of the messages you're hearing today are so important to really closing that gap for our state of California to get our state's goal of getting 90% of all eligible households onto high-speed internet by 2024. So that is definitely a call to action that was set forth by the California, the California Broadband Council for the state. And so I'm really excited to be here. And so for those that may not be familiar with what the Affordable Connectivity Program is, or as we love to call it, ACP, this actually began back in December of 2021. ACP essentially replaced the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, which was a temporary program tied to the pandemic. So as soon as COVID hit, of course, the spotlight was definitely shown on the need for broadband for every single household, as we can all recall. So essentially, ACP helps families connect to internet from home by providing a monthly benefit to pay for a service plan. The great thing about this program is that ACP is available to current or existing internet subscribers or new subscribers. So if a current internet subscriber, for example, is not satisfied with their service that they're receiving, or they're paying a lot out of pocket, the market rate is just too expensive for them, they really have the option now to switch over to another provider and apply their ACP benefit if they're approved. And of course, this is a great opportunity for new internet subscribers, anyone who's never been connected to the internet before, or if they're connected by smartphone, this is their opportunity to, again, apply for the benefit and select a provider that services their area. So a really good opportunity to introduce internet for the first time for many households across our state. The ACP program, it was developed by the Federal Communications Commission, and it was funded by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Originally, it was a $14.2 billion program, and as you heard earlier, the funding for that has began to dwindle as our state and other states across our country are taking advantage of the program. The benefit provides a discount of up to $30 a month for broadband service, actually $75 for households on tribal lands, which is wonderful, and a one-time discount of $100 towards the purchase of a device with a internet service provider that is participating in that particular option. So not all service providers in our state are offering the $100 voucher. So, you know, there are selected providers who are participating in that. So you might be wondering, you know, how does one qualify for the program? So a member of a household must meet one of the following criteria. So one of the criteria could be that someone in the household is on a federal assistance program. Some of those include Lifeline, Medi-Cal, CalFresh, students who are on a Pell Grant, the WIC program, housing, or veterans pension. A few of those federal programs have recently become auto-verified programs, meaning that if someone, for example, who is participating in Medi-Cal applies for ACP and uses a formal identification to prove their identity, they are automatically qualified for ACP. And it also deletes the need for them to upload documentation to prove that they're on these programs. So it's a really great, we're really, really happy to, you know, sort of learn that a few of these programs are auto-verified. I do want to mention that we anticipate that ACP will continue until funds run out. We are estimating that funds for ACP will be available through the end of 2024. And so that's why we are really thrilled to be speaking to all of you today. You have the ability to really share, you know, drive the point to the administration of our state and of course of our country that ACP is truly a benefit that households depend on. As someone mentioned earlier, you know, this savings of $30 a month, I know it may not sound like it's like a lot, but I've experienced so many, you know, in-person enrollment events where, you know, families and, you know, head of households come and are just so, you know, grateful for the fact that they're able to save that $30 a month. Oftentimes, you know, the $30 a month, oftentimes families have to make a decision between, you know, putting food on the table or, you know, keeping their internet on. And so by having that $30 credit, you know, applied every month towards their internet, it really does help them make internet in their household a sustainable solution for them. And so I want to just, you know, briefly mention that we have, as mentioned earlier, we have successfully completed a little over 60 in-person enrollment events, which have been, you know, truly one of my most favorite, and I've said this to Sunny many, many times, it is one of my most absolute favorite, you know, work duties that I've had that I've been able to experience. I've really enjoyed, you know, being there in person, like I said, working with households, sharing with them information about how they can apply for the benefit, you know, helping them register for the program, and just, you know, that sense of gratitude that comes from them and from me as well, you know, just being able to help them. And so it's really important that, you know, counties do their due diligence at sending out information to residents that are eligible. we have developed a toolkit where, and I'll drop the link in the chat if I'm able to do that, where we've developed, letters, templates, flyers of ACP information, text messaging, language, you name it, we have developed it. And we want to share our toolkit as much as we can. We encourage you to, click on the link and poke around and see where some of the items that you're able to use and implement through your communication channels to those that may be eligible for this program. Specifically for counties, we've developed targeted messaging. So most of the flyers mention, Medi-Cal and CalFresh, since, those are two programs that the county we know sort of oversees and manages. And so we've developed, customized information for county residents along, with K through 12 families. So, I really, really do encourage you to take a minute, look through our toolkit, decide, which information makes most sense for you to share with those that you work with and those that you serve, and just share. Outreach is really important. Awareness is key. So many families across our state have no idea that ACP is out there. When they hear about the program, like I said, they just are so grateful for that discount. So yeah, I'll drop the link in the chat, and if it doesn't reach everyone, not a problem. I'll share it with Brian, and Brian, I'm sure, can share it with the group when this meeting is over. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Marissa. And I'll echo what you said, which is a couple ways we are going to distribute this toolkit. Not just today, we're going to make sure that counties get access to this, because this is a powerful way. It has been thought through from CETF's side. They have a lot of experience doing outreach. And so we want to make sure that every county is really getting access to this. I'll say that I'm not sure, Michael, do we have the frame of the website? But if we don't right now, I dropped our website today for our members only page at CSAC. That's for the CETF partnership. It's not a login. It's right here. So if you go to, I believe the link is membersportal.counties.org. And today, because this is our first webinar, we were able to drop this website. It's going to have links to our upcoming webinars. It's going to have an archive of these webinars so that folks can watch them later. And then further down, it's not here on the screen, but there are other resources. There's links to CETF. There's links to various ways that you can help think about your own county's ACP situation. So I want to ask a couple questions to Marissa before talking to Mark and Tom about LA and Riverside. So Marissa, if I'm at a county, I'm any level from supervisor to staff, how do I start thinking about the gap at my county? Is there a way to figure out who's might be eligible and who might be actually enrolled? And so therefore I can have a target to think about.
It's an excellent question. So we do have an ACP tracker, which I think is really helpful. It is, again, a tool that you can look up by county your ACP enrollment rate. We don't have, and Sunny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I wish we had a list of, folks in counties that are actually, on the ACP program and not on the ACP program. That would be wonderful if we had that kind of data at our fingertips. But I think, just information sharing, definitely making sure that folks are even aware that this program exists, I think is truly key. So again, we'll share that link with everyone. That is our ACP enrollment tracker, where you can actually look by county, and then you can even look by zip.
Yeah, and I'll say that our CETF partnership, which we're gonna kind of make sure counties are connecting with over the next couple of months, there's gonna be a link on there for that tracker as well, that, a tool you guys have built out. Another question, just wondering about is basically, this is a multi-year funding situation. IIJA, the big federal investment in not just broadband, but it was kind of an everything package. How long do we have? I mean, how long is this ACP program funded for currently? And then if there is some sort of end in sight, because it's so powerful, how do we think about some possibilities of reauthorization? Is this going to continue beyond what it's currently scheduled for?
Well, oh, go ahead, Sunny. Go ahead.
I was gonna add, but Marissa is the expert, as you, Brian, as you pointed out. I mean, the amazing work of leading over 60 in-person enrollments and many simultaneously is huge. The current ACP program in IIJA had an appropriation of $14.2 billion. We are actually trying to race to the top to get as much of that as we possibly can. And I will say that most of the people really watching this closely, including the Federal Communications Commission, do expect it to last through the end of 2024. Now, I want to not cause, folks to have alarm, because we have two strategies, well, actually three, that we think are going to be very effective. One is that the more demand we register by people signing up, the greater the likelihood is that there will be an extension. And certainly CSAC going to NACO, and you will not be alone. This is a bipartisan issue in Congress. It is a red, blue county, red, blue state issue. It is needed across the country. And we're backing that up by working very directly within Washington, D.C., a pretty powerful coalition of Republican and Democrat leadership organizations, with the National Urban League and the Pew Charitable Trust being our research partners. So that's number one and two that we wanted to say. Number three is that we are sponsoring legislation that is being battled by the ISPs in California. It's AB 1588 by Assemblymember Wilson, that will require any ISP who is a vendor to California. We're not regulating internet rates, but if you are a vendor, that's a contractual obligation, a voluntary contract arrangement, that they will have to sustain their own affordable offer if there should ever be not a federal offer. So we will have a backup, and that in and of itself, if it were to pass, would get everybody aligned with wanting to have a federal benefit. So to all my colleagues in counties, our best strategy is really grab the opportunity we can now to get more than our fair share of federal dollars. Let's bring some dollars back home. Let's register the need, get NACO engaged, and then make sure we have state policy adopted that actually ensures we'll have more alignment to get federal benefits sustained.
I really appreciate that answer. And that's really, it's worth teasing out that adds another layer of significance of this push for enrollment. Basically several layers. It just really teases out why it's so urgent. And there's some timeliness there for the sustainability. I really appreciate CETF's expertise on this. We're now going to shift towards LA and Riverside and start to hear some specifics from what they've done. So I want to introduce Mark Colton from LA County. So Mark he's multiple hats, as lots of folks are on the call. Mark is the acting general manager of LA County's Office of Major Programs and Initiatives. He's also the assistant director of LA County's Delete the Divide initiative. He's had 30 years of experience as an executive in executive leadership, private and public sector both. And for the last year and a half, he's been co-leading the LA County's ACP enrollment efforts. So that's really what we're going to dig into today. So Mark, thank you so much for being here. I hand it over to you, and I'll also just remind folks of the format where after Mark gives us, a 10-ish minutes presentation, we'll do a couple moderated questions. If you have specific questions for LA or Mark, what he says, put those in the chat to us, the panelists, and I'll try to surface some of those within the time format. So Mark, thank you so much for being here, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Dr. Rutledge, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. And Sonny and Marissa, it's really great to see you both again. I know we've done a lot of work together, and I appreciate it. And I also want to thank CSAC and especially CETF for the invitation. Bear with me just 1 minute. I'm going to share my screen, and I have a very short presentation. I know when everybody hears that, they start to yawn, but it really is short, and I'll get right into the details. So can everybody see my screen? All right. So following the format, how did we get started? So for us, the County of Los Angeles Board of Supervisors is very progressive. And they actually initiated the Delete the Divide initiative back in October of 2020. We got into the space, the ACP space, through a motion on November the 16th, 2021, called Investments to Accelerate Digital Equity. It outlined a number of things, but key to us in this space was it authorized us to launch promotional campaigns on financial subsidy programs, and specifically the EBB and what eventually became the ACP. So how we got started was in that motion also, it directed our chief executive office to provide us some funding. And so we got a one-time $3 million funding in December of 2021. And we set about, and I'll get into the specifics of what we did, but we knew that we wouldn't be able to do this by ourselves. So we immediately set about to create partnerships and alliances across the region. We have an excellent one with CETF and other groups who have really helped us in this area. So in December of 2021, when we jumped into this thing, we only had about 3 weeks to run a promotional campaign, and we partnered with CETF, and the EBB was ending. But we learned a lot during that process, and we ran a very intensive multi-ethnic promotional campaign. And when it was all said and done, when we looked at the numbers, we saw a 43% jump in EBB enrollments. And we said, wow, man, we might be onto something here. So we continued to build on that success. And so I was asked to say, what are the essential planning steps, right, in ACP promotion? So for us, we had to define our target audience. And what for us, for Delete the Divide, we originally started, our target service areas are those areas in Los Angeles County that report minimal or no internet access. And that's about 2.5 million residents. So that's a big chunk of the county of LA, more than it really should be, frankly. And we realized that through our data, we use GIS data, and I'll get into that in a minute. We realized that many of these residents were already receiving county services that would make them eligible for the ACP. So our next step was, let's determine our program's messaging, right? What are we really trying to promote? And for the County of Los Angeles, our focus has been on home internet, right? Not so much on the mobile internet. We have really promoted home internet because we really want to address those issues in the home. You know, everybody can remember the pictures during COVID of kids sitting outside of Burger Kings and other places, you know, trying to do their schoolwork. And so we thought, hey, let's get homes connected. So that's always been our focus. And I have the almost free in there because, you know, we don't control what the ISPs will do. And right now it's $30 and they're offering, you know, high speed at $30. But we wanted to be careful with our messaging as well and say, look, this is low cost. And depending upon what you get, it could be free. We didn't want to create ill will in the community. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we developed a communication strategy. And for us, you know, it was basically, we were going to leverage all of our county departments that already deal with these constituencies because they already have communication channels that they can use. Our Los Angeles County Office of Education has been an outstanding partner for us because they're connected to all of LAUSD and all the school districts. They have the middle schools and the grammar schools. And so we used everything from social media, communication channels, including emails, text messaging, etc. And of course, being in the County of Los Angeles is highly diverse. So any promotional campaign, has to encompass multi-language, hyper-local media promotion. We had such a short time frame in December that we brought everything to bear: TV, radio, print, out-of-home advertisements on billboards, etc. And I've highlighted in-person enrollments events coupled with device giveaway. We didn't do that in that December. We did it the following December, and it's kind of become our model, if you will. We found that it's really one of the most effective ways to actually get enrollments to occur. So keeping on with the plans, of course, we had to create our promotional materials. And for us, it has to be multi-language flyers, brochures, social media postings, reposting of media highlights. One of the things that we did, and we had some help from this, actually from CETF and SAC, who is a marketing firm that they use that introduced us, was to identify key influencers. And so we were able to do that, local TV and radio personalities. We did interviews. We had a media day. And I think it really helped. It helped to really drive those initial numbers. And then again, our board is just outstanding. I mean, all the members of the board are committed to digital equity and inclusion and have taken some really progressive steps. I mean, I've only mentioned one motion, but they've done numerous motions to authorize us to move forward to try to connect people to broadband. And so they published op-eds, et cetera. And then, of course, with any plan, you got to have a timeline and key milestones, right? And I just showed one of ours here, in-person ACP enrollment at county libraries. Again, we want to leverage. For us, we're always, delete the divide. There's 7 of us on this team, right, from a countywide perspective. So we're always trying to leverage as many resources, both within our county, outside our county, public, private, academic. It doesn't matter. If you want to do good for the people, if you're really trying to help the people in need, we're going to partner with you. We'll find you and we will partner with you. And of course, in this space, you have to allocate resources. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. That's just the bottom line. So the board directed that this would fall under the Delete the Divide initiative, which I lead. And so we have a team lead that really focuses all on ACP. And we have partnered very effectively with the nonprofits, with CETF and Human IT and everyone on, and all the people doing all the great work in this space, right? And, I've heard it earlier, we have to go after the resources and the money. And so we were very fortunate. We applied for the FCC ACP outreach program, and we were awarded $700,000. And so we already have plans on how we're going to use that money. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, my experience, I've been around a long time, public, private, military. There's an old saying that anything that you measure, gets improved, and anything that you measure and report on gets improved on even better, right? So we do a lot of measures and we do a lot of reports so that we can see where we are. And one of the things I want to talk about is when we first started, and again, County of Los Angeles can't take credit for all the great work that's been done in this region. There are so many players out there, but when we first got started, I tried to set a benchmark, and I looked at the EBB enrollments for that month, and there was 352,831 EBB enrollments. And now when I look at the data for the County of Los Angeles, again, we can't take credit for this. Let me be clear about it. There's a lot of people doing this work. We're at 652,204 ACP enrollments. Now that's a 46% increase over 16 months. So what that says is, yes, there is still a lot of work to do because there's 1.6 million households that are still eligible, but it says there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of good work. And so for us, last December, we CETF was involved with this. I appreciate it. They were very helpful. We had a 7 in-person 1-day ACP enrollment event at county libraries. We were able to enroll, during the events, we were able to enroll 303 people in the ACPM program. We used devices as an incentive, and we distributed over 800 laptops through that process. And again, I'm just sharing some statistics down there on the regional enrollments. I use the ACP tracker, broadband for all, et cetera, constantly. It's a great tool. So those of you listening, it's easy to access those tools. It's easy to see those and set a benchmark for yourself. And so you can measure, see where you are and then see, where you get to, what goals you want to set. So in terms of best practices for us, we use our GIS data, and we have a lot of it. And we've used it primarily to identify grade and middle schools that are in or near the underserved areas. And so through LACO, the Los Angeles County Office of Education, we've been able to highly leverage their communication networks so that they're able, before we do an event or before we do a promotion, they're able to send information directly to the home for the qualified residents. And that's big. It's been important. And they have really delivered. LACO has really delivered for us. We've had to collaborate very closely with all of our community services and health services organizations. And this gives you, this is a 2-for-1, so to speak. You get two benefits by doing this in your counties. Number one, it will add credibility to your message because, these organizations, these people, they already have relationships with the constituents, right? They're already providing information and services. So it's not like just some stranger showing up. And the second thing is it's highly cost effective. They already have, emails and text messaging distributions and so forth set up. And so, as much as you can provide ready-made, and again, going back to what Marissa said, they have great toolkits, right? They have great resources that you can modify and throw your county logo on and do whatever you want to do with it. And it's awesome, right? It's ready to go. We've learned that if you include device incentives, it really does create a big public draw. And, for in-person enrollments. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you have to effectively manage that, though, because there are some, if it's not done right, it can create some issues for you. And then one of the things that we're doing is this April, we have just rolled out 35 pre-apprentices, which we're calling digital assistants through our DTD pre-apprenticeship program. They're at 20 county libraries. Stationed at 20 county libraries in or near the digital divide areas of Los Angeles County. And we're actually going to be rolling out up to 100 of them so that we have full-time coverage during the library's hours of operation. And they're actually there and they're well equipped to enroll people, first to make people aware of the ACP and other governmental subsidies, and then to enroll them. So we're doing training with them. They'll also be collecting the metrics for us to do our quarterly reports for our FCC grant. And so that's a really big initiative for us. And we're really excited to be able to do that. And then, of course, the last thing is that even though the County of Los Angeles is, the county itself, the government, and its organization is so huge, collaboration with nonprofits and community-based organizations is essential, right? We would have not made any progress or the progress that we've made to date if we had not partnered effectively with all of the organizations that are in this space, right? It doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are. For us coming in, I had zero knowledge. I didn't even know what I didn't know. So partnering with CETF and other organizations really helped open my eyes to see what do we really need to do and how do we need to go about this. It's a wonderful resource. And so lessons learned. So one of the lessons we learned right off the bat is conducting 7 events in a single day really stretches your resources, right? And then when I'm not only talking about the counties, our resources underneath the divide, but even with the nonprofits that we were trying to work with, they were like, whoa, yeah, that's a lot, But fortunately, CETF and other groups really came through and we got it done. I don't plan on doing multiple events on the same day again for a while, but we will do some large events this year. Clear messaging to the public is essential when conducting a device giveaway. In December, we had some tense moments because some people thought, hey, all I got to do is show up, I get a free computer. And the last thing that we want to do, as public servants is to create ill will in the community. good intentions only take you so far, right? So you really have to be clear about what it is that it takes if you're going to win something. So we learned that lesson. On-site leadership is critical during large-scale in-person enrollment event, right? You can't do it without it. We had site captains. We also had a commander over all the site captains who could handle the reporting and all those other issues that come up. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. You just have to plan for it and have your best plan in place. And then, although it didn't happen to us, we stay very close to what's going on in this area. And we heard about the FCC site being down when there was some open enrollment issues. And, unfortunately, that happened. And so we're trying to think through, if that would happen to us, like, what would be our backup plan? How would we collect this data, hold on to this data, and be able to submit it, at some point in the future when the site is up? And again, we haven't quite figured that out yet. We're still thinking about it. But if we do figure out what we would do, we're happy to share that. And again, we're happy to share anything that we've done or anything that we're doing with any county that wants to contact us. And so basically, that's really it. This is just some collateral that I had provided to Dr. Rutledge. So when he shares this, you can see some examples of some of the material that we put forward. And so I'll stop sharing now. And I know I went through that really fast, but happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much, Mark. That was wonderful. I'll also note that he did share some collateral, some marketing materials. So if you want to look more at that, email me. We're gonna figure out if we can make that available on our CETF Partnership website. We're gonna try to figure out the best way to make sure counties have examples that are very effective. We know that they're going to work. Mark, let me just quickly ask one or two questions. We've gotten a couple, but let me try to moderate it for time here. One is basically just to think about a theme of partnership, throughout everything you said, it's not going to be just your county or just any one department within a county. It's going to be potentially very cross-cutting. It sounded at some point like it was almost very easy for you to pull that off and create partnerships. But what's the key to, in a very sort of efficient way, getting folks on board aimed in the same direction on this particular issue?
So that's a great question.
Any ways to help us think about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So for the people that are already in this space, like CTF and everyone on Human IT, it's very easy, right? Because they're already working in these areas. But when we look at other county departments and they have a different mission, right? So one of our strategies was, let's give them everything that's ready to go, right? They don't have to do anything but push it out, right? It's like, it's like a drop of water, right? Water seeks the path of least resistance. And so if we can make it so easy for our fellow colleagues and county departments that provide these social services to send the messaging out, and it worked. It's like all they had to do when they got it, it was ready to go. And that really helped because, that's what we needed for them. We needed from the other county departments. We needed them to reach the people that they were serving. So I think a couple things. One, Selwyn's leadership in this space in the County of Los Angeles is highly respected. And he's highly respected amongst his colleagues, the other department directors. So that goes a long way. Number two, the Board of Supervisors is very committed and very visibly committed to this initiative. So that makes it a little bit easier too when you run into some resistance. And then number three, again, whatever we can do to make it easier for our partners to be able to help us, we have found then we get a lot more cooperation in that area. So those are kind of the areas that have really helped us.
Yeah, and I'll push on this a little more just because I think what's so striking about the LA example is the speed at which you really created and put into motion that original plan in December 21. Let's say, for sake of consideration, that put aside the supervisors already being aligned and invested, and say that there's a potential range of possibilities in that, right, across the state. besides the supervisors being lined up and ready to go, what helped you do it so quickly and efficiently? Because that's obviously a key condition that was helpful, but what else was a condition that you guys could control and move on?
So I think here's a couple of things that helped us. The Delete the Divide team had been formed in 2020. It was a small team. Christine Juarez, who I know that Marissa is very familiar with, was on my team. She helped initially lead this initiative. There were a couple other people that were instrumental, and they were just highly passionate, Brian. And I mean, in terms of like work hours and work days and those, it just didn't exist, right? I mean, I'm just going to be honest, right? We had a short time frame, and there was no such things as weekends or time off, or there's a lot of hard work.
Well, we don't want to scare people. We don't want to scare.
No, I don't want to scare.
I'm
But
just kidding.
I'm going to be honest with you. You know, we had a 3-week window right, initially. But the key for us was we already had a solid team. We had clear roles and responsibilities, right, on what we needed to do. You know, we had a clear timeline with milestones, and we had a leader, right, Selman Hollins, as a department head, that had clear line of sight on what we needed to achieve. So, and then in the county of Los Angeles, for us, you know, it wasn't business as usual. No, we went around saying, look, this isn't business as usual. You know, there's a limited amount of time here, not only with the EBB going out, but we know this funding, even back in 2021, we knew the funding was limited. And from our prior work on Delete the Divide, right? So I didn't talk much about Delete the Divide, but we already know the dismal conditions of many of these communities in terms of having access to little or nothing, right? Food deserts, you know, no lack of medical care in those areas, et cetera. So we, you know, the team is very passionate about this work. And so I don't have to, you know, I don't have to push them. But having said that, we already kind of had the infrastructure in place in terms of planning and implementation and the drive to make it happen. And it's still been that way to today. You know, we're still pushing the ACP. You know, we're still pushing in all these different areas because just the need is so great, right? And again, the team has grown a little bit. A couple more people have joined, but what we look for is that commitment, right? That passion to want to make a difference. And you know, if you can just do one extra thing, right, at the end of the day to move it a little bit further, it really helps. And so I don't know.
That's really helpful because I mean, to restate a little bit, I mean, having intentionality, leveraging what's in place, including leveraging folks' interests and knowledge about the social economic issues that exist, and really taking ACP and making it a framework to really leverage that. It's powerful. And so, Mark, I do want to thank you so much for sharing that experience. I'll say again to folks that we'll try to get some of those materials circulated just to make sure if there's any interest, we can share those. Wanted to move now to Riverside, stay in Southern California here, and introduce Tom Mullen, the Chief Data Officer of Riverside County. So he's the director, also the director of broadband services. And for the last decade, he's worked to close the digital divide, much as Mark's been doing in LA. Tom has collaborated inside and outside of government. He's been focused on broadband access, digital literacy, data transparency, and making access for decision-making tools available to more and more folks. So we're now going to hear from Tom about the Riverside County experience and see what it was they were working with, you know, what worked, what didn't. So yeah, Tom, handing it over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Brian, thank you. And thank you to the entire panel for being here and the leadership that is present. We don't get here without this team that you're seeing here on this panel and the leadership that really comes down from CSAC, our county supervisors, and Sunny and the team at CETF, which we'll talk a bit more about. Let me see if I can share this up real quick with you, and we'll get a PowerPoint going here. So hopefully you're able to see that now. Our story and our journey on all things ACP really came out of our broader journey to close the digital divide in Riverside County. We had focused back in 2015 through 17 on a series of actions to bring fiber service to every location, every address, business, residential across Riverside County. That process allowed us to learn as an organization quite a bit about what is it that we can accomplish as a county. What are the limitations? What are the barriers? What are the decision points that we wish to pursue? And then from the carriers, from the providers, where are they at? What are they willing to do? How far are they willing to go? What are the economics going to be involved in pursuing a fiber deployment strategy for an entire county in a densely populated area in Southern California, where you have incumbent carriers, where you have new entrants that may or may not wish to participate because of the incumbent carriers. So we had learned an awful lot through that process. Moving forward, just as we all have, with the renewed emphasis and effort around connectivity here recently coming out of the pandemic, and really working through that, we renewed our efforts. Personally was asked to get re-engaged in this effort, and I appreciate we've got Supervisor Washington on here. Has been instrumental from our board of supervisors in leading us and keeping this front and center, and we're very appreciative of his leadership and support throughout this period of time. And I'll stop there because I know he's going to make a few remarks here at the end as well. But we as a county renewed our efforts to really pursue three primary areas, and I've got them just listed here, but it's about closing the digital divide from an infrastructure perspective, from affordability, and from adoption. We've all heard these three themes before. They're not new, but what are we doing here in Riverside that are maybe different or similar to your situation? Focusing specifically on ACP and affordability, we launched an outreach effort last fall in 2022, really coming about this time last year. We made a concerted effort to bring an update to our Board of Supervisors on where we were at with our overall broadband strategy. From that, decision was made to really pursue two primary avenues. One is affordability, which I'll talk about, and the other is around infrastructure. We still have a need for greater infrastructure, high-speed broadband infrastructure throughout our communities, whether that is in incorporated cities or unincorporated communities. We have a very diverse topography, diverse populations, and diverse needs, quite frankly, of all of our community members. But what is common is there is a need for connectivity for all things that we've talked about, whether it's health, whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's pleasure, whether it's family. And so it's easy to from that perspective to say we still have a need that we need to close. And I'll mention that I am very appreciative of the work that the CPUC has done recently to update their broadband maps. A lot of work and effort has gone into creating maps that better represent where the gaps are, where the connectivity is, and what sites will qualify for the grants that are being administered by the CPUC, either on behalf of the state or through the federal programs that have come forward. Very appreciative of the work that they have done. Hasn't been easy. It certainly hasn't been without an awful lot of work on that staff to bring that data forward. And they've been open to refinement over the years. And I just have to thank them again for the work that they're doing. Looking at infrastructure helps us to identify where are the other gaps. If there is infrastructure, why aren't people signing up? and that gets us to affordability. And so we've talked about the great work that's gone on in other jurisdictions. Los Angeles County really, I think, led with their rollout of EBB efforts to get folks connected in a new and different way in partnership with CETF in the region. That informed, I think, all of us. I know it informed me as to, holy smokes, here's a different way of tackling the affordability challenge that we have seen time and time again. Affordability is about money, and having the federal government put the money forward in a way that is consumable, that is approachable, that is manageable. Thank God they didn't ask all of us to take the money and manage it at the local levels. It would have been an administrative nightmare. I'm very thankful that the money flows directly from the feds to the ISPs on behalf of the recipients. And so what we focus on, just as Los Angeles is focused on and others are focusing on, is how do we increase awareness? How do we help them get signed up? And more importantly, break down the inherent barriers of what is this program and why, who are you and why are you trying to scam me? So just breaking down those barriers of getting folks comfortable with getting on board with ACP. Like Los Angeles, we learned, don't do it on your own. Go find somebody that's done this before. Sunny, Marissa, and the entire team at CETF, as well as Young Yu and her team at SASH, have done an outstanding job of putting together a package that you can consume. We consumed it. We said, we want to be a part of what you're doing because it works, and help us implement it here and reach our citizens, reach our residents. And they have. So what we are doing is all the big stuff. We do the television advertising in the LA market, which encompasses the entire Western Riverside County. And we do advertising in the Coachella Valley out of the Palm Springs media market. We're doing advertising in English and Spanish on television. And now we're also doing radio in English and Spanish in both markets. We're doing outdoor advertising. I'm a big fan of billboards. People don't get home. We don't get newspapers anymore. So how do you connect with somebody so that they can see that this is something real? You see it on TV, maybe you hear it on the radio, you see the billboard driving through your community, driving to work, driving to school, driving to the store, and it clicks, that you get a consistent message coming through. We're also doing bus shelters where we can, and now we're also doing direct mail in multiple venues. One, we've got a direct mail campaign that's rolling out 2 targeted households that are eligible. This is a postcard in English and Spanish that's going out. It ties into the enrollment events, and I'll touch on that in just a second. But mail helps. We also put together an 866 number that is staffed by CETF, manages on behalf of the CBOs that are participating, the community-based organizations that are manning those phones on our behalf. We have a consistent telephone number that we are utilizing for all advertising, television, radio, print, and the like, digital. I feel that it's important to have that consistent telephone number. You hear it, your neighbor hears it, your aunt hears it, it's the same number. And then you've got folks on the other end of that phone that are simply there to help you get connected to either a carrier if you need one, or get the discount with your existing provider if you have one. And they will help you find one if you don't have one. We have focused on getting to household broadband connections rather than cellular. I think ACP program in general needs a tweak around cellular utilization. I think it has its place for those that don't have a traditional wireless or wired broadband service at their house, whatever that household may be. But in too many instances, I believe that the cellular ACP sign up is being misused and is a detriment, quite frankly, to some of those household members. Because that's one cell phone that gets signed up for the program, and it's tough for that cell phone then to become the hotspot in the household unless that household knows that that's what's happening. And so I'd like to see and discuss and hear about ideas as to how to tweak the program going forward to bring the emphasis back to broadband for households rather than the equal standing that it has now with the cellular providers. That doesn't impact what we're doing though in Riverside County. In Riverside County, we are pushing forward to try and connect as many individuals as we possibly can. Today, there's 141,000 households signed up, which is bringing in over $4 million a month in ACP benefits to our residents. That's $4 million a month, every month, growing every month. It's $50 million annually, and that's a big number. That's $50 million that we as a county don't have available to us from another pot of money to be able to provide that benefit. I'm not aware of state funds allocated today to backfill for that level of commitment, and that we're just one county. The numbers get very, very large, very, very fast in California, as we all know. And to be able to have the resources to bring that a $30 a month subsidy forward at the state level, I question whether we could do that for a long period of time. So continued, as Sunny had mentioned, continued support for the federal renewal of the program is key, I think, for all of us to continue the program forward.
Tom, can I jump in? Because
go ahead.
And just wanted to ask you about, appreciate the editorial on the structure of the program going through ISPs as a reimbursement rather than through the counties directly.
Yep.
What does it take to partner with the ISPs as the county to really make that work? What are the possibilities, challenges that you encountered really trying to, because it's in their interest to maximize enrollment here. So how do you really make that work?
We meet with them regularly, talk with them. Each of you, I'd recommend reaching out to whoever your carriers are in your community. Here we have 3 primary carriers: AT&T, Charter Spectrum, and Frontier as our primary broadband providers in the residential homes. And we meet and talk with them. We try to coordinate as best we can with them, hear where they are going, share what we are doing, collaborate as much as we can. Each of those national companies obviously are running national programs. And so there are some things that they can do locally, and there are many things that are simply going to fall into that national bucket or statewide bucket of tasks.
That makes sense. And it sounds like you guys had some relationship, but you basically just leverage that and really get on the same page with them on this. Quick question about devices, because we had heard from Mark in LA, they really had device promotions was a key success they found. Did you guys utilize that at all? What was the experience in Riverside?
Devices are tough. We have a refurbishment program. We call it a digital equity program. Back in 2015, we started taking county surplus equipment, IT equipment, and distinguishing what could be repurposed and what truly needed to go to the recycle. Those items that we could repurpose, we do. We fully refurbish them, relicense them with Microsoft operating system and Office. We do desktops, so you get a desktop computer, a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse, and licensed software, and we distribute those. We primarily have distributed those through the school districts. School districts within Riverside County utilize their family resource centers. So these are going to be the groups within the school district that are working with the families of the students on a range of issues. One of those is digital literacy training. They will provide the classes. And so what we said, if you do a class, we'll give you the computers. So you take the class, you get a computer. And so we've been utilizing that format for years. It's been very successful. We'd love to be able to grow it, but it's based on our resource allocation and what we have available to us. And I'd say for each of the counties, it's going to be based on whether or not you have that enough synergy, enough mass to be able to refurbish, or whether or not it makes sense for you to look for someone in the community that might be doing something like that, that you could then enhance through your donation of surplus equipment.
And then and one more question, just in terms of helpful to dig down in your guys' approach. LA, we had mentioned, Mark had said they got an external grant, some federal support for outreach, right? So they had already dedicated some internal funds, worked to get some external to boost that. What was the funding in terms of getting some resources dedicated to this in Riverside, and how did you make that happen?
Through the great work and appreciative support from Supervisor Washington and his colleagues, they allocated $7 million of our ARPA funding to broadband activities. We took half of that specifically for ACP outreach and enrollment over a 3 fiscal year cycle.
So nice. So it was also, there was some external support that was really helpful there as well.
Yes.
And I flagged that partly. I will do a brief side note, which is at the foundation, I am the grants program director. I'm also working on this partnership on the broadband side. And I do think that's one possibility for synergy here, where CSAC's working to help counties really get the access to those external funds. And it's interesting that both counties, that some of that external funding help. So with that, I want to thank you again, Tom. I want to thank Mark. I want to thank all the other presenters, and I want to introduce now our president of CSAC, Supervisor Chuck Washington from Riverside County. Really appreciative of him for being here. We've heard from, we had CEO Graham Canals kick us off, and CEO Sonny Wright McPeak from our partners. We've now dug into LA and Riverside. What are your thoughts on how we should be thinking about this, Supervisor Washington?
Good afternoon. Pardon me. Thank you, Brian. Pardon me. I'm Riverside County 3rd District Supervisor and currently the president of California State Association of Counties. And first of all, I'd like to start by thanking the webinar presenters here today. You are greatly appreciated. And to SUNY and the CETF team, thank you for being here. CSAC is excited to work alongside you to address the digital divide. We know that California was home to inequitable opportunities long before the pandemic, but the pandemic complicated things and quickly highlighted those inequities. I'll be blunt, there's a lot of work left to do, but I am encouraged knowing that CETF is finding ways of doing that work and has strong partnerships with organizations like CSAC. Mark and Tom, thank you for sharing examples from Los Angeles and Riverside County. CSAC applauds your efforts to increase ACP enrollment and make high-speed internet more accessible. And I trust that your stories will motivate other counties and departments. I do hope that everyone here today leaves with the belief that you have the power to strengthen your community by leveraging Affordable Connectivity Program. As someone who's active in your county, you have the power to start a conversation. You can spark change by asking questions and exploring possibilities. Sometimes you have to step on a few toes, and Tom will testify that sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about, but this is how I find out, by having those conversations. How many households in your county are eligible for ACP? Do you know how many are enrolled? It's worth asking these questions for your own knowledge and as a way to start a dialogue with your colleagues. Heck, we're implementers. Counties help business and people survive and thrive. There are all sorts of ways that you can develop plans and identify actionable goals to dramatically expand ACP enrollment. You can take CETF's toolkit, for example, and integrate it into existing public assistance programs. Or you can use your systems, and Tom was suggesting this, navigation centers and other tools to raise awareness and sign people up. When you start a conversation, conduct outreach, and pursue other plans, you'll provide direct benefits to your county and your constituents. That's what I want to leave you with. I want you to get excited to get more Californians access to the transformational potential of high-speed internet. Join me in being intentional about addressing the digital divide and about supporting greater access to more and better opportunities. We've come a long way, still more to go, but I have great faith in us.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Washington. And thank you, everyone. I'm just gonna close it out as the moderator here by just putting my contact back up and saying again that as the lead over at CSAC on our partnership, focused on affordable broadband here, please do shoot me an email, questions, comments, concerns. We're really gonna try to get folks not only excited, but in action here. So we'll see everyone hopefully in the future and really hopefully see that needle move. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Thanks, Brian.